Kia ora friends, welcome back to my studio. I'm Gina and today we're going to be building out the church. And the church is a kit that I bought in a miniature show last year, and when I opened it up I realised that there were some key pieces that were missing, mainly the two side walls. So what I'm going to do first before I start anything is to recreate these out of some mat board. So I'm just going to cut out the door and then trace the windows on and then cut those out as well, and then I can basically start putting the kit together. So for the exterior, what I want to do is actually cover it with polymer clay, and I've just rolled a really thin sheet out in my pasta maker, and I'm using a little bit of polymer clay adhesive, and I'm just putting that onto the wood, and I'll also put that onto the cardboard so that when it goes into the oven it will bake onto and stick quite nicely onto the wood or the mat board. And then for the stonework, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to roll out a little snake of clay and then cut off some smaller pieces into stones that I'm going to be putting over the exterior. So to fit them into place, all I'm just going to do is use this little sculpting tool just to kind of shape them into as square a shape as I can, so going from a ball into a square, and then actually the little lines that I end up by putting onto the surface of it make it look like stone anyway. It worked out really well. So I'm just going to work my way around the windows first, and then I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up. So once I'm happy with it, I'm going to finish off the rest of them and pop them in the oven to bake. So once they're baked and completely cooled down, there is some extra work that I need to do on the two side walls in order for them to be able to fit nicely against the end walls, mainly because we've come on a the slope of the ceiling comes down and then it juts out on a very square edge. So what I need to do is just cut whatever the angle is on the roof and just cut that along the very top, and that will help to fit together nicely. So you can see that the line of the wall follows the line of the roof, and that just allows me to fit the ceiling into place. So I have primed the miniature first just with a grey primer out of a spray can. It doesn't really stick to the polymer clay all that well. It goes a little bit sticky, so I'm actually going to go over it with a very light grey acrylic paint. This is a matte finish just to cover up that primer. And then on the inside, I'm just going to go over with, it's almost a very pale peachy colour, very, very pale, mixed in with a bit of grey. With the grey primer underneath, it actually mutes down the pinkiness of it. But I just wanted something a little bit more warm to go with the warm wood tones that I'm going to be adding in a little bit later. Give a really natural stone effect. The grey paint is just a little bit flat, and so I'm just putting over a black wash, and I'm wanting this to go into all of the recesses in between all of the stones, and then I'm just going to dab off any of the excess with a paper towel. And then one last step to finish off the stonework is a dry brush of white, just to pick out any of those highlighted details. And as you can see, it makes quite a bit of a difference just to kind of lift the dimension of the stonework out of the miniature. So I'm really happy with how the stonework has come together, and it's really starting to look a lot like stone. To create the altar, what I'm going to do is layer up a couple of pieces of wood just to create a couple of steps, and then I'm using some gel stain to cover the inside of the roof as well as the floor. In the kit, it comes with a couple of options of carpets, and I'm going to choose this more muted one. I'm really wanting because this is to go into a much larger scene, so I don't really want the red of the carpet to really stand out, and so it's just got one strip down the middle and then a little bit across the top. For any of the other woodwork, I have primed all of the 3D printed pieces that came in the kit in black, so that it just adds a nice little base coat to it. And I'm just going over with a bit of brown, as well as the church pews as well. So these are super tiny, and they come in two pieces. One is the main piece, and then there's an extra seat piece as well. So to get the church pews off the base plate, or I guess it's probably just there for how it's been printed, which I thought was actually quite good. And then I'm just going to put these two pieces together. So you got the back piece, and then there's a little seat piece that just sort of snaps in there as well. I haven't glued it in, they're just sitting in there. They're not going to go anywhere, and now I can start gluing the different pieces into place. For the windows, these are also 3D printed, and I've also gone ahead and coated these on both sides in black primer. And at the moment I'm just going through and gluing these to a piece of acetate, and using some alcohol markers I'm just creating a little bit of colour for the stained glass. You can't quite see them, but here they're glued on both sides of that acetate. Then I just need to be cut out and fitted into place, and then I'm just running a bead of glue around on the inside. So now I can glue the floor to the walls. Creating these two pieces separate just made a lot more sense in order to be able to get to everywhere, and especially with the windows as well. It would have been a bit more difficult trying to navigate around all of the interior. So now I can actually add in the first part of the roof. This one here will be fixed. The other side of the roof I'm not going to fix into place in order for it to be removed, so that we can get a really good look on the inside. For the rafters, I've made a little jig or a little marker for where each one of them would be evenly spaced apart, and this really helped when I was gluing them into place. Adding in a couple more details, which is a cross ahead of the altar, and then also just some notice boards that I'm going to pop around the church. For the shingles, it comes with this lined piece of paper, which I'm actually going to use, and I'm just using a wash over the top of it just because I don't want it to be nice and even. The instructions said to just glue that straight onto the roof, but I wanted to add a little bit more detail, so I'm just treating these like I would normally any other shingle. So cutting strips and then cutting some vertical lines into them just to give it a little bit more dimension, and then gluing the second row slightly overlapped over the first one, so this actually helps give it a little bit more dimension. For the bell tower, I'm just going to super glue this together. It comes in 3 separate pieces, which sits quite nicely together. And then for the bell, I'm just painting that silver, and the roof line, I'm just primed that with the same grey, and then I'm just going over with a black wash and over the bell tower as well. So once that's all dry, I can fit the ridge line onto the roof that is going to be detachable, and this is going to help allow it to hook to the top of the other roof. And then I can fit the bell tower into place, and we're almost finished on the project. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. Up next, I'm going to be completing the rest of the diorama, so there's some exciting things coming. Until next time, everybody, have a fabulous week and keep on crafting.